All right, let's get this party started. Welcome, students, to Classics 160B1. Meet the Ancients! I, of course, am your professor, Dr. Rob Steffen, and we are here to finish up week 9 today. This is putting us 60% of the way through the course, so we're getting there. I think we have less than 2 months to go. I hope everybody is on the seat of their chair, just like dying to hear how Roman history evolves, because that's what you're going to get for the second half of the course. So hopefully that's what you're excited about. Anyway, what we are doing today is we are going to finish our story about Rome's earliest days with Lecture 9.3, The Seven Kings of Rome. We're going to start with a few announcements. We are going to recap the story of the foundation of the city with Romulus and his poor brother Remus. Remus was probably just going over the wall to get a glass of wine or something, you know? I don't know why Romulus had to be like that. Anyway, then we're going to hear the story of the legendary Seven Kings of Rome. And just to give you a little bit of context, as we go through that, I don't need you to remember every single name of every single king, right? What I want you to do is get more of a general sense for how the kind of Roman conception of these seven kings was a way for them to tell their own story about how the Roman kind of culture came to be and how the city of Rome developed. Then what we're going to do is we're going to spend some time briefly discussing what's expected for the revised research proposal. That is due sometime during the second half of the semester. Karen, Zach, Blake, you want to give me a date on that? April something? Thanks, Zach. Anyway, by the time we talk about it, I will have a due date for you. That's probably an important piece of information. And then what we're going to do at the end of the day is we are going to talk about this kind of virtual reality digitizing Delphi project for the honors project. I know I've said that like a million times, and then I get to the end and I've lectured for like 43 minutes and I'm like, oh, we'll do it next time. And then we don't do it next time either. And like, those of you doing the project are probably like, Zeus, damn it, we need to talk about it. And those of you, okay, April 9th for the research proposal. So we got a few weeks, but we'll want to start talking about that now. And then those of you who are not doing the honors project and are expecting to get out of class halfway through, you guys are probably also like, Zeus, damn it! You said we were going to get out early today. Well, today is the day. It's actually happening at 12:30. If whatever I'm doing, you guys are, if you're not dealing with the honors project, you guys are free to just jump out of the lecture and go do whatever you want. Watch some more March Madness. Okay. A few announcements. Put your screen into speaker view. If you have a question, go ahead and funnel that to the TA. And make sure to watch lots of March Madness. I was watching some of the Virginia Tech-Florida game today. I picked Virginia Tech to pull the upset. At halftime, things were looking good. They were up 6 points. And then I went for a run. Good run. Put on 5 miles. Was around like 7:45s today. That's pretty fast for me. I'm getting old, but pretty decent speed. So great run. Came back. Virginia Tech had blown it in overtime. So my bracket is already busted. Is Gonzaga winning it all? That's a good question, Harry. And if you're like picking the chalk, you might think so. But actually, Michigan, despite losing one of their best players, is going to win it all. So book that, write that down in your notes, and if you pick them, we can celebrate. Jalen Suggs, he's good. There's no denying it, Harry. I'm not trying to argue with you. But yeah, Kyler, you get it. Lauren gets it. Iowa? Iowa's all right. Anyway, we'll talk more March Madness as we go. The New York Knicks are getting good this year. I heard that like the New Yorkers were like throwing them a huge celebration when they made it to when they had a 500 record, which they hadn't had in a while. Anyway, Yes, watch the madness. That is not related to Roman history, but it is very important nonetheless. Okay, so let's recap this story of the foundation of Rome, right? Our starting point was that in the early first millennium BC, right? We're talking the 8th century, the 700s. This is what it looks like in Italy. Lots of different tribes all over the place. Rome is part of the Latins, all right? Right there, kind of in red. I don't know why it says Romani there. It should say the Latins there. But there's no reason to think in these early days that Rome would ever grow like powerful enough to take over the Mediterranean. And that's in large part because the two most dominant groups in the early days of Italy are the Greeks, who we've talked a ton about so far, right? And the Etruscans, who we've talked a lot about this week. And with the Etruscans, right, we've seen how they they're in these kind of trade networks with the Greeks, and they tend to love Greek culture, right? Greek pottery and Greek bronze working and Greek armor and weaponry and Greek language, all that sort of cool stuff. And we see how Etruscan material culture tends to look kind of sort of Greek with a few differences, right? So when we look at pottery with the kind of, the orange background and the black figures on it, very frequently that's Etruscan pottery that's mimicking Greek pottery or Athenian pottery. When we look at temples like this, right, we can certainly see similarities with Greek temples, but it's not quite the same, right? And we talked last time about some of the main differences with this sort of thing. Now, in Rome's earliest days, right, what we want to imagine are lots of little hilltops in the city, much, much steeper than they are right now if you go to Rome, and little, kind of tribes living on top of the different hilltops. And then it's only over time that all these other areas of the city get filled in. And so we start to get things like the Roman Forum, and then like the Campus Martius. Those all get filled in over time. Now, the story we told on Wednesday, right, was of the foundation of the city, and that begins 450 years before the city's ever founded, right? This is the story of Aeneas, the Trojan prince, fleeing the city of Troy as it burns. He's got his dad, Anchises, on his back. Anchises, that guy who hooked up with Aphrodite. He's got his son, Ascanius, on his leg. He's got the sword of Troy to found a new civilization that will be mighty and powerful. And he set sail across the Mediterranean, eventually landing on Italian shores, and then doing battle with the local groups there to establish his place, his kind of rightful place in Italy. And so in a way, right, what's going on with the story of Aeneas, as told by the author Virgil in the Aeneid, it's kind of sort of like a combination of the Iliad and the Odyssey all in one, right? So his journey from Troy to Italy, right, all across the Mediterranean, all these stops along the way, trials and tribulations, that's very similar to the Odyssey. And then once he gets to Italy and he starts doing battle with these kind of local groups, that's very similar to the Iliad. And so Virgil's tried to construct an epic of Roman proportions, right, worthy of Rome's place in the world, and something to rival those Homeric epics, which were really considered the pinnacle of epic storytelling and poetry in the ancient world. Oh, all right, we still got our slide with our voyage of Aeneas. It took me a long time to make the boat go all the way around to Italy, so you gotta watch it again. All right, anyway, after 400 years, right, we get all these descendants of Aeneas culminating in Numitor, who is the king, the local ruler of Alba Longa, and his younger brother Amulius, right, who's very jealous of Numitor. And eventually Amulius, overthrows him and imprisons him, and takes over and makes his daughter Rhea Silvia a Vestal Virgin. But Mars, the god of war, right, comes to Rhea Silvia, impregnates her, and she has baby twins, right, Romulus and Remus, who she's got to put in a little basket and float down the Tiber River, and then they wash ashore and they're suckled by this she-wolf, right? So raised in this early days by the lupa. Eventually picked up by a farmer and raised further there, and eventually they make their way back to Alba Longa to overthrow their evil great uncle Amulius and reestablish their grandfather Numitor as the rightful leader, and then they set off for that place, right? That location where they washed ashore all those years ago to found their own city. And that's where things start to go incredibly wrong, right? So they wash ashore right near this little thing. This is the Isola Tiberina, or the Little Tiber Island. And one of the cool things, so if you ever go to Rome today, it's this kind of like, I don't know, oblong, almost like football-shaped island in the middle of the river. And it kind of is shaped like a boat. And in antiquity, the Romans built up the island so that it actually looked like a boat in the middle of the river. Another cool thing is that in antiquity, it was like this island itself served as a hospital. And it still serves as a hospital today. So kind of 2,000 years of continuity as a place of healing within the city of Rome. Anyway, that's where they want to build their city. They can't agree on which hill to build it upon, right? Romulus wants to build it on the Palatine. Remus wants to build it on the Aventine. They both start their own thing, right? We saw the story of the birds, and Remus is like, I saw 6 fly above the Aventine, and Romulus is like, I saw 12 fly above the Palatine. And then poor Remus jumps over the wall of Romulus. Romulus kills his brother and establishes the city. And that happens on April 21st, 753 BCE, right? Again, this is one of the dates that you do want to remember. There aren't a lot of specific dates. Remember April 21st, 753 BCE. And somebody mentioned that do we have the day off for that? We have the day off to celebrate Rome's birthday? Awesome. We get the day off to celebrate Rome's birthday. Everybody needs to go out and eat gelato just like a good Roman. All right. And then we talked too about how one of the really cool things is when we look at the archaeological remains in Rome, the earliest habitation actually is on the Palatine. And it actually does date to the 8th century, which is super cool, right? Nobody knows if it was actually founded in 753 BC. But it's kind of cool that the archaeological remains more or less kind of match up with the story that we get from Roman antiquity. Now, we concluded last time with a little bit about the story of Romulus himself, and about the story of the 7 kings, and how each of these kings, there are probably many, many more leaders than actually 7, but how each of these contributes something to the character of the Roman people, or the city of Rome itself. And in Romulus's case, right, in large part, it is establishing Rome as a strong, powerful, militaristic culture, right? So one of the things he does is he gets women for the city. Originally, it's all these dudes, right? And eventually he invites people in for a party, and during that party, he kicks the guys out, keeps the women, and then later on the guys come back to fight for their women, and it's the women who themselves who get in the middle of this, and they're like, enough of it, you fools. We're settling this now, we're staying with the Romans, and you guys make a treaty. And they do. And so the idea after this, in the aftermath, is that after Romulus rules, a Sabine will be the next king. And then after that Sabine rules, then a Roman will be the king after that, and then another Sabine, and so on and so forth. And then we saw too that Romulus, rather than actually die, the story is that he just went up into the clouds. They were out making a sacrifice, him and the senators, one day, and a storm comes in, and there's thunder, and there's lightning, and there's smoke, and when the clouds clear, Romulus is gone. He was supposedly taken up into the heavens on a chariot. Okay, so that's Romulus. Romulus spends much of his time as ruler going around to all those other cities, where'd they go? Those little towns, and trying to basically conquer them all. And frequently when he conquers them, he takes their population and moves them into the city of Rome so that it starts to grow, slowly grow. Now, Numa, one of the great names in all of Roman history, is the second king. This is the other name you should remember. And the last one. All right, so you have to remember 3 out of the 7 kings of Rome. But the ones in the middle you don't have to remember. Numa Pompilius. What a wonderful, wonderful name. Numa is the exact opposite of Romulus, okay? So Romulus is the warrior. Numa Pompilius is a Sabine, and he is the pious king, right? Numa is the guy who brings religion and piety to the Roman people. Now, they had religion before, but he's the guy who really exemplifies that being a pious person is part of what it means to be a good Roman. So he does a couple things. He founds these priestly colleges. He establishes the 360-day calendar. We get 5 days added on a little bit later. He brings the cult of the Vestal Virgins to Rome, right, from Alba Longa and from the Sabines. He establishes the Temple of Janus, which you see on this coin here. And the Temple of Janus, in some ways the god of new beginnings, has these doors. And when the doors are... Oh man, I always forget this. Can somebody do a double check on this? It's either when the doors are open or closed, Rome is at war. And then when it's the opposite, they're at peace. And so if somebody can double check... Okay, closed is at peace. Thank you, Zach. All right, so during the reign of Numa, the doors of the Temple of Janus remained closed for his whole reign because things are so peaceful and pious. And over the next more than 1,000 years after Numa, they're only closed 3 more times. That's it. Rome is at war the rest of the time. And so again, Numa is really very strongly associated with this idea of piety among the Roman people. And so you can look at Romulus and you can look at Numa, and this is what it means to be a good king, right? You're a strong warrior and you're pious towards the gods. Now, as we go on, we're going to look at other aspects. You don't need to remember these names here, but you might imagine that a guy named Tullus Hostilius is, well, kind of hostile. All right? So he's back to being a Roman. He's very militaristic. He fights the Alba Longans. Remember, that was the grandfather of Romulus, and he conquers that town and brings their whole population to Rome. He's the first guy to establish the Curia, which is the little area in red here. This is the Senate House. And you can actually go into it today in Rome. It's a much later version of it from ancient Rome, kind of during the Empire. But the Senate House in the Forum still exists. And he ends up fighting the Alba Longans, right? Now, the way they do this is kind of interesting. So they were going to battle, and all these people are dying on both sides, and there's like, both sides are like, there's got to be an easier way to figure out who should rule who, right? And so what they do is they each take a set of 3 brothers, the Horatii on the side of the Romans and the Curatii on the side of the Alba Longans. And they're like, we will just do battle with this 3-on-3 thing here, right? And whoever wins, gets to incorporate the other people. Now, it starts off really badly for Rome, okay? So 2 of the Romans get killed almost immediately. But then the 3rd Roman, the 3rd of the Horatii, is really, really smart. So what he does is he starts running. And he's running away, and he's running away. And the Curatii are chasing him. They want to kill him. But they start to get spread out because they're running so much, right? And eventually, the Roman turns around, and the Curatii have all been spread out. And he goes to the nearest one, and he kills that one guy. And then he starts running again. And he's running, and he's running. And then they get spread out again. And he turns around, and he kills the other guy. And then it's down to one-on-one battle. And in one-on-one battle, the last of the Romans defeats the last of the Alba Longans. And Alba Longa has been defeated in this kind of interesting set of like symbolic warfare here. And they are incorporated into the Roman city. Then we've got Ancus Marcius. Yeah, it was super clutch, Lucas, absolutely. So Ancus Marcius, back to being a Sabine, back to being a nice, peaceful dude. Yes, those are annoying Call of Duty players. Are they more annoying than snipers? I don't know. Your call. One of the things Ancus Marcius does is found the city of Ostia. And if and when you guys go to Rome, you have to go to Ostia, right? Everybody's heard of Pompeii. Ostia is like the second best, after Herculaneum, it's like the third best preserved city. Incredibly well preserved. You can get there on basically the subway from Rome for like €1. And there is no excuse not to go. But this is the point, this is the port of the city of Rome that kind of connects Rome to the Mediterranean Sea. And we can see the archaeological remains here. I mean, look at this. This is like multiple stories preserved from this ancient port city, founded by good old Ancus Marcius. Then we've got Lucius Tarquinius Priscus. And here's an interesting moment because we get somebody new, we get some new blood into the monarchy here. We can tell by this guy's name that he is Etruscan in origin, because we have an Etruscan city called Tarquinia. So somehow this Etruscan becomes king. He's Tarquinius Priscus, which translates as Tarquin the Elder. And he seems, by all accounts, to be a pretty good dude. I will, by the way, I'll see if I can get funding to take everybody to Rome. It would be a pretty wild, study abroad, lead like 300 people around together at once. But I'll see if we can make it happen. But Tarquinius Priscus does all sorts of awesome contributions to the city. He builds the Cloaca Maxima, which sounds very shitty, and literally it is very shitty. It's called the Great Drain. It's a giant sewer. But what this does is the area between the hills, prior to Tarquinius Priscus, it's all swampy. You can't really live down there. And after he builds this great drain, not only does the sewage improve, but it kind of drains those areas in between, the marshy areas in between the hills, and all of a sudden you can live there. And what that means is now you can go build your forum, right? The kind of gathering area in between the hills. And this is what the forum looks like today. This is the Senate House, by the way, the thing I had highlighted in red earlier. Again, this is a much later version of it, but kind of cool that you can go walk into the ancient Roman Senate. So yeah, the forum is a lot comes to life because Tarquinius Priscus drains everything with the Cloaca Maxima. Yeah, and it's also good for health. That's a good point, Zach, right? That whenever you have swamps like this and just sitting water, mosquitoes get bad and malaria gets bad. And so this is also an important thing for health purposes. And we'll talk more about that actually as we get into the kind of Republic and we start talking about aqueducts. The only reason ancient Rome works is because it has badass aqueducts and fresh water coming in. Tarquinius Priscus starts the Circus Maximus, right? This thing, it doesn't look like this under Tarquinius Priscus. It's just like an open field. But later on it does. This thing holds 150,000 people. This is an insane number of people that can fit into one place. Awesome for a good atmosphere, bad for COVID. All right, then we've got Servius Tullius. He's the guy who brings coinage to Rome. They used to have these giant coins, right? They were called the ice graves, or the heavy bronzes. In the kind of very early days there, before they start getting much smaller, and they also start using things like silver and gold. Servius Tullius is also the guy who builds the first wall around the city of Rome. And it's called the Servian Wall. Interesting thing is that we actually think archaeologically he probably didn't build it, but later Roman historians, right, later ancient Roman dudes, attribute the wall to him. So we still call it the Servian Wall. And this is one of the best preserved parts of it. Again, going back to the very, very early days of the city. And then this building right here, this is the main train station in Rome. This is Roma Termini. And one of the cool things, right, is that the wall goes straight through the train station. When you go inside of the train station, And especially if you go down a floor, you can actually see the wall. It goes straight through McDonald's on the bottom side. Hang on one second here. Okay, so apologies if it's a slow connection. I'm gonna keep doing my thing here. I'll upload a not slow version to YouTube right after this. But it is a cool and bizarre experience to eat like a Big Mac in Rome with your table that's like bolted in to the Servian wall, right? The earliest city wall in Rome. Servius Tullius also starts the Temple of Jupiter Capitolinus, the biggest and best temple in all of Rome. And then finally we get to our guy, Lucius Tarquinius Superbus, right? This guy's known as Tarquin the Proud, and he is a bad, bad dude, right? So he comes to the throne through violent means, and what ends up happening here is he's basically not acting like a good guy whatsoever. It gets so bad that he's basically having his way with the wives of the senators. He's just taking them for himself. Or his son is at least taking them for himself. And this culminates in this kind of event that we call the rape of Lucretia. And remember how we said the rape of the Sabines it was more like the seizure of the women? This is the rape of Lucretia. So Lucretia is the wife of one of the senators, and the son of the king forces himself upon her. And in the aftermath of this, she kills herself, which in the time of ancient Rome, this was seen as a very kind of a noble thing to do, to not live with the shame of this event. Obviously, our thinking on that has changed a lot over time. But this is a very precipitous event because the senators at the time basically said, no more, right? We have had enough of the kings. The rape of the Sabines, no, they didn't actually... it's not the same kind of thing. They basically took the women as wives, but it wasn't like they just had their way with them there during the event. But this was the event that basically precipitated the downfall of the monarchy, and we'll touch base on that a little bit more next week. So go ahead and put in your attendance for today. So the color for today is white. Quiz number 22, March 19th, and the answer is white. Go ahead and put that in. You can sign off if you want. I'm going to stick around for 3 minutes after this to talk about the research proposal, and then we'll talk honor stuff after that. So let's go ahead and talk research proposal for a second here. I just want to give you guys the basics in terms of what to expect on this thing. The general idea for the final draft, right, is that you are basically starting to answer some of the questions that you proposed in your rough draft, right? So I know it's still called a research proposal, but we want to see in this final draft that like you've actually read some of those ancient sources now, and you've actually read some of the secondary sources now, and that you've actually got some answers to the questions that you set out to answer in the first place, right? So that is your goal in this paper, right? So again, be clear about what your question or topic is. Hang on. Missed this time frame. Let's see. Let me check on that. So I just got a couple things saying that missed the quiz time frame. I'm gonna check that just to make sure. It's usually set to like close at 12:50, so it should be within the time frame, but we will get it fixed one way or another. It says 12:50.
Dr. Rock.
Yeah.
The students that are here, if you want, you can just send us your TAs an email with the answer and we can update your grades for you. If that's helpful.
Yeah, that's cool. That would be super helpful. Thank you for that. It's kind of weird. It says on... Yeah, it says it should go till 12:50. Anyway, one kind of like piece of hint on those things, you're also limited in the amount of time that you have to actually answer the question. So don't just like open the quiz when the class starts or else you'll time out that way. Okay, cool. Anyway, so again, the general idea is that you are now answering some of the questions that you laid out in your original research proposal. I want to see, most of all, right, that you're able to draw on evidence from both the ancient sources and the modern sources in order to answer some of your questions, right? That is the goal here. Show me that you can use evidence to answer your question. You don't need you can be creative in how you do that. There is no necessarily right answer. I want to see you drawing on evidence to answer the question or expound upon your topic. Again, you can use part of the kind of word count there to talk about what you're going to be doing for your project and why that's a useful way to discuss your question and topic. That's a good one. In terms of number of sources, I got to re-upload one that actually says this in the assignment sheet. But what do we think? What do you think, students? What's a good number of primary and secondary sources that seems fair for the final draft here? Three? Three of each? 2 plus 2? 2 plus 2? 2 plus 2? All right, 2 plus 2 it is, all right? And here's the deal. We will make 2 plus 2, 2 primary, 2 secondary. Here's the deal with it. What I want to see is that you guys have actually dug into these sources and that you're able to draw good information out of it. And so you might use 2 primary and 2 secondary sources, but if you're just a glancing acknowledgement of them, that still might not get you full credit on that kind of topic, right? So if you're employing one of these ancient sources, really get in there and pull some examples from that source to discuss whatever your topic is, right? So other than that, you're more than welcome to kind of build upon what you've got, expand on it, nuance it, show me how you're moving from general stuff in your original research proposal to really nuanced stuff here. But that is going to be the goal for, I think, 3 weeks from now? 3 weeks from now. Word count this time is 750 words, right? 750 plus, and feel free to go beyond that, right? If you're like loving your topic and you want to keep writing, go for it. Word count for groups, it scales linearly, right? And so, so what that means, that's actually kind of tough for groups, right? So if you got like 3 people, you're gonna have to really get into your topic, right? And find a way to really flesh that out. Yep, scales linearly, 750 words. Geez, 750 words is not like a novel. You guys will survive. You guys will survive. All right, cool. Questions? I had 3,000 for a class and almost died. Should we include the original proposal? No, you don't have to. You don't have to include the original one. If you got some real gems, right, like some great sentences from that original one that you want to reuse, go for it, right? If you just copy and paste the whole thing, it's gonna look kind of awkward. 750 words is like a whole history book for me. All right, let me think about the word count thing. All right. TAs, you guys get together, put together the brain trust, and come up with a good solution here.
What about if we put like a range that throughout, like maybe 500 to at least 500, or maybe 500 to 800 or 750?
Yeah, something like we'll make a final determination on this next week. Right now, you guys just keep writing as though it's 750, and maybe. I mean, your TAs are really they're wonderfully nice people, so they may help us lower that.
And
but
just letting you know, students, I'm also for STEM, so I understand the struggle of like writing more than you usually used to write, but with the historical sources, though, you should be able to make that one word count if you could paraphrase enough information from it. So you should be okay.
Yeah, you guys will be fine. We'll touch base on the number again next week. All right, guys. If you have no interest in the honors project or anything like that, feel free to get out of here and go enjoy your weekend. And honors people, stick around. I will answer a couple questions for you. We will talk about exactly what I want you to do between now and next week, and what we're gonna do. Yeah. Rest of you guys, go enjoy your weekend. Everybody else, stick around. All right, so let's talk honors project for a few minutes before we finish up here. Let's see here. Okay, so again, the big picture of what we're going to do, we're going to now spend time every week between now and when we finish working a little bit on this project. And what our goal is to do a digital reconstruction of the site of Delphi, which you're looking at right here. And what this is, right, the site itself is one of these Pan-Hellenic sanctuaries. So this is one of the sites where Greek city-states, even though they're politically independent, from all over the Greek world, right, would come together at sites like Delphi to worship the god Apollo. And it's a really well-preserved site as well because we don't get a modern town that gets built on top of it. So we still have incredible remains, right, of the theater here. This right here that you're looking at, like right over there, is the actual Temple of Apollo. The thing that looks like a temple down there, that's a treasury. So city-states from around the Greek world would set up these little treasuries, and what those treasuries would be is a storehouse for all the different gifts from that city-state to the god Apollo. And they would come here in particular, right, for advice from the oracle about whatever's going on in their life or their city-state's life. So the way that this is going to work, it's going to happen in 4 steps. You guys have already kind of looked through the secondary sources, gotten a general sense for what's at the site, and then hopefully you have looked at you guys have chosen one of the aspects of the site to focus on for the second half of the course. Then what we're going to do from here are 3 different things. First, you guys are going to read the ancient account of the site. I'd like you to do that for next week, right? So it should be on there. It is from the 2nd century AD, and it's this guy Pausanias who goes around to all these different Greek sites and describes what he sees when he's there. So you're going to read his description of visiting the site of Delphi. And then what we're going to do from there is you guys are going to actually work to build a 3D model of your object or monument or building or whatever it is. All right. Now, my thinking here is that that this would be a cool skill to learn, to sort of learn how to 3D model something. Dr. Rob has never 3D modeled anything in his life, and I'm excited to learn how to do this as well, okay? So this is a learning process for all of us here kind of at the same time. The software that we're going to use for that is called SketchUp Free. It's web-based. It's free, as the name suggests. And there are a number of very useful tutorials. So in addition to reading about Pausanias for next week, the other thing I would like you to do is watch the first of those tutorials. So the link is on D2L, and just watch what it entails to kind of start using that software. Feel free to play around with it a little bit. In the end, right, you're not gonna really get judged on like exactly how perfect your like replica of the temple is, right? I want you guys to really put in some effort and try to kind of construct these things. So will you also model a structure in the site along with us? Absolutely. Well, I'll look to see what you guys have, and then I'll pick one that hasn't been done yet, right? Yeah, I'm gonna model one as well because I wanna learn how to do this. So the other thing that we're gonna do is we're going to then place all these 3D structures within this kind of virtual reality environment. And that environment is called Engage. Engage is the software that's used for that. Let me see if I can bring it up and show you guys what this is like. But what Engage is it's basically a virtual environment that everybody can kind of go into, walk around. You can build things within the kind of site that you're at within that software. You can give presentations in there, that sort of thing. And so what I'm going to try to do for next week is get everybody signed up so that they can access that software, right? That's going to be my thing for next week so that you guys can all access that. And what we'll try to do is actually next week jump over from Zoom into Engage and have everybody meet in there. So give me a second here and let me see if I can bring this up. All right, let's see if this works here. Okay, so it's a like a 3D environment. Hopefully, can you guys see this all right? And there are different kind of places you can go. Our starting point is like a theater from the site of Pompeii. And then within this, you can give kind of presentations on the screen. So let me see if I can actually bring something up here. What could we bring up? Could we bring up a YouTube video? Let's see. All right. Let's get this party started. All right. So, you know, you can kind of give presentations within the virtual space. You got to imagine people wandering around. This is Wednesday's class.
Professor.
Let's see if we can stop that.
Dr. Robsteffen. And today we are going to finally get into.
There we go. Okay, so my goal for next time is going to be to get you guys signed up for this so that we can meet in this space. What we're going to do is, in addition to being able to kind of talk together within the space, is you can go visit different spaces. And it's going to be, I think, this one here. Let's see if that update takes too long. Where we're actually going to try to reconstruct, right? Bring in our 3D monuments and put them into this kind of large, open, grassy area. All right, so we've got this area. We can walk around. Again, you have to imagine other avatars in here. Next week, we'll actually have that. You can bring in different things. Let's see, what do we want to bring in? What would be a good one? History. All right. Put in a Greek statue here. And we can go ahead and recreate our landscape using some of the things from the software itself and then the monuments that you guys build as well. So that's going to be the goal. Again, what I would like you guys to do for next time, get rid of this here, are these three things, right? So read through Pausanias, watch the first SketchUp video, and then I'm going to go ahead and get everybody signed up for Engage. If you guys haven't put your email address, your name and email address on the Google Doc yet, that's like residing under the Honors Project thing on D2L, do that because I'm going to need that to get you guys all signed up. Okay? So that's it for now. If you have any kind of questions for right now, between reading Pausanias, watching the first video. Oh, there was a question. Okay. Does Engage need a VR system? So the way that it works is that if you have a VR system, either like the Oculus 2, or you can rent the one that I have, this Pico Neo 2 from the library. It's something like $80 for the second half of the semester. You can do it in there, and in that one, you know, next week I'm actually going to have the headset on, and I'll be able to like walk around the site. So you can do that if you want. If you're like, that is too much money, or I don't want to do it for half a semester, totally understandable. You can do it through a web browser, right? So like right now I'm in a web browser. So you can do it through a web browser as well without having to buy anything else. You probably want something more than your phone, but you don't have to buy the VR system. Okay, all right, cool. You guys go forth and conquer. I will see you all next Monday. And then what we're going to do is we're going to reserve this second half of the class each Friday from here on out. I'm really dedicated to working on this project together. I don't think you need an Oculus link cable. I think it should be all able to go through just the headset. It should be kind of, you can access the software from the headset. Awesome, great. So if you haven't put your name on the Google Doc, do that and choose your monument. Hopefully you've got that already. Read Pausanias, watch the first video, and we'll meet back here again next week. All right, have a great weekend, everybody. It was wonderful seeing you all.